All right, welcome to the Benzo Rehab Dungeon episode 31. My name is Michael Deebs. I am the host. Joining me, as always, is Danko Suvin from the Instagram handle at DankToLose. It is February 19th, 2021, 7:12 p.m., in case you care. Danko, how you doing, buddy?
I'm going to evade that question by just saying that our podcast now, if we were measuring this in Jesus years, would still be alive, but not for long.
Yeah, I was gonna say we have what, 2-3 more years.
Yeah, we got two more years. In fact, we just started doing miracles. I don't know if it was last year or this year, but we just started. So you guys get ready.
It's very appropriate with the side project I've been working on about religious deconstruction.
Right.
I don't know if you had a chance to listen to any of those or if you care.
I listened to the first one. I haven't listened to the second one yet.
The second one I think went a lot better because the first one was just kind of like an introduction to our backgrounds, and the second one actually had kind of structured topics.
Right.
So let's see. Since last week, we did our acceleration episode. We finally did that one.
We did it. People seem to like it too. People are happy with that.
Yeah, I've gotten a lot of good feedback on that one.
If you guys want to go fast, because you got to go fast.
Since then, a couple of things have happened in the news. One of my favorite things is the. We'll just go.
Oh, before you get in, I decided to take up cigar smoking.
Oh, you've decided to take up cigar smoking
constantly.
Okay. There's this funny quote from Rush
and Oxy.
Limbaugh.
I'm also. Oh, what?
There's this this funny quote from Rush Limbaugh where he once blamed, and I don't know, it's weird because he always went back and forth on whether or not smoking causes lung cancer, but he managed to find a grotesque racist angle to it, which is that Native Americans introduced smoking to white people, and so the evil Native Americans are responsible for so much white people death.
Oh my god, that rules.
Yeah. I wonder if I can find that real quick.
I can't believe I miss him now.
Yeah,
that's incredible.
I mean, I don't miss him. I think he recorded a radio show every day for however many decades. I think there's plenty of content we could probably dig through there.
Oh yeah.
I
guess it's fine. It's fine.
He's left an indelible mark on American politics as well. So
yeah. I mean, it's good that he.
You
did you ever
froze
hear
for a second.
Oh, did I? Well, I was just saying it's good that he went out fresh, but.
Oh yeah. Okay.
but also, do you remember the he had a song occasionally, or at least once, but it like kind of blew up a little bit. It was Obama, the Magical Negro.
Yes, right. Yeah. I don't think that was his song. I think it was a song that.
Well, he played it on the radio a few times.
He played
That's all
it a lot. He made it his own.
Which is.
Yeah,
right. Yeah. F's in the chat for me saying.
Yeah, let's go ahead and just.
Beautiful. I don't have the stamina of these crabs. Yeah.
No, I don't either, and I'm not a good dancer.
Oh, come on, you're fine.
I'm pretty sure our friend Cyborg, if she watches this on YouTube, is going to be absolutely dismayed at my dancing capability.
Shouts out Cyborg. Bimbo babble. Yeah.
Let's see if I can. Oh
man, people are going to think that that's an insult. But it's never a show. She does a show called Bimbo Babble, folks.
Yes. It's very good too. I enjoy it.
It
It's
is.
more
Yeah.
it's more wholesome and uplifting than I think what we normally do, which is important.
To be fair, I was on one of the 3 existing
That
episodes
is
so
true. I
far,
didn't
so
I
we
didn't
can't.
actually watch that one.
It was fine. No, it was great. It was great. But you know me well enough that you probably don't need to watch it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I see
You'll
enough
know
of
that
you.
everything I say is a lie. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll just start calling you out in the comments. So
He didn't even go to school.
let's see if I can find the video, because I think the video is important.
Or the cow fart thing. Remember the cow fart thing? Just every disingenuous statement that has ever flowed into American politics came through that man.
Yeah. No, he
Where it's because of cow farts and volcanoes that we have global warming. I received his book when I was, I don't know, in my mid-20s, or one of his books. I'm sure he has 1,000 of them, but um, yeah. So reading through that was fun. I should find it. I'm sure I still have it.
All right, so I'm just gonna read the quote because I can't find the video. I wasn't
Okay.
expecting to bring this up, but the quote is, and this is again Rush Limbaugh, not me talking. Rush Limbaugh says, "Let's check the scoreboard. How many Native Americans were killed by the arrival of the white man through disease and war? How many people have died since the white man arrived due to lung cancer? Thanks to the Indian custom of smoking. Who are the real killers here? Where are our reparations? I'm just saying." This is
Whew,
it's had
that's good.
it's had some choice
Very.
things cut out of this quote.
Oh Jesus,
Yeah. So, one of
man, that
the
rules.
most vile human beings to ever live, I think.
Yeah, and
A
it makes a
being.
great.
Go ahead.
Huh?
Oh, I
No, I
was
was
just
just gonna
gonna. Yeah.
say. I'm good. I was just gonna say you say it first.
Oh, I was gonna say he's just like one of the most vile human beings to ever live, and just like a being of like pure hatred of the other.
Yeah, because that's all it is there's no real. I mean, obviously not real like philosophizing, but no real like ideology or anything built in there. It's all just procedurally generated claims to like shit on someone, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah, he and like I said, he for decades upon decades claimed that smoking doesn't cause lung cancer,
right.
but for this one instance where he can pin it on Native Americans because he had this, I don't know where this kind of psychotic thought even comes from, sort of thing. He decided, hey, you know what? I'm going to treat lung cancer as real for this very specific moment in time, just so that I can claim that it's actually Native Americans' fault. Um,
Right. I mean, it's so you probably don't know what this is like, Mike.
oh, okay.
Uh, but but
This seems like a leading question.
but when when you're in a certain state and you've had a bit to drink and your kind of sense of humor loosens up a little bit and you start making dirtier jokes and things like that, but then you still recognize that these are jokes.
Yeah.
Imagine that being the entirety of your personality, but instead of you being like, "Ha ha, isn't that a funny joke?" You're like, "Ha ha, this is what I believe."
I would, I
That
would
must
like
be
to
incredible.
I would like to make the point, or put it on the record, that when I drink heavily, I don't turn into a racist.
That I swear. Okay, neither
I,
do I.
I know that's
But
not what you were
that,
going to say, or not what you were
but
trying to say, but
but at the
it's one of
same
those
time,
things. Yeah.
that exact same story and the broken logic necessary in order to believe it is absolutely a joke that I would make.
Yeah, of
It's
course.
absolutely
Yeah,
a
yeah,
joke
yeah.
I
No,
would
no,
make where it's
it's
just
a
like,
joke I would make as well,
yeah.
but I would be like, isn't that a crazy, stupid thing to
Well,
think? Like,
exactly. Yeah,
my
exactly.
my
That's
brain
that's the
is
joke.
rotted, and I'm making a very, very dumb point about something.
Right, right, right. But imagine having all that and then it becomes your personality.
Yeah, no, yeah,
That
and that's who Rush was.
rules. Oh, it's so
God
good.
bless him.
Yeah, I used to hate
I
listening to him so much.
Yeah, this one of the things I actually kind of grew up with Rush Limbaugh in the background. Unfortunately. And you know,
Same, buddy.
I didn't quite understand everything I was hearing, obviously, and so you know, I just had some kind of ingrained racism of my own that I eventually had to kind of get rid of because, and we're talking about this is like decade or more ago that I kind of had to like approach these thoughts and like go, I wonder if Rush Limbaugh was maybe lying about black people or whatever.
Right. Right.
So
Yeah,
yeah,
I wonder.
it's unfortunate and it's poisonous and he had a huge platform of millions and millions of listeners. Like I think I heard like 26 million people tuned into his show
I believe it. Yeah.
daily.
And which is another great way of going towards a point that I like to make, which is that people lose their minds over cancel culture being a thing, but evidently you can still have all these thoughts and statements and stuff. You're totally fine if you just don't give a shit what some pink-haired person on Twitter says about you.
Yeah.
You know,
No,
not that it's
it's
good that you
completely
do those things,
right.
but
Like no, it's completely true that like cancel culture is such a
it's a non-issue on both sides.
yeah,
You know,
it's a
like
non like there are stupid things that happen,
yeah,
but cancel culture versus like corporate control culture, I guess is
right.
what I would say, where I posted on the Instagram story the other day or week or something. Time is just fucking flying.
Hmm.
But Nathan J. Robinson made a joke about how and he clarified that this was definitely a joke, and I don't even
Right.
like Nathan J. Robinson that much. I think he's a smug prick.
Hmm.
But it's funny. I was watching an interview with him, and he brought up that a lot of people are like couching all of their defenses of him, and I think Nathan J. Robinson is a smug prick, sort of stuff. And I'm doing the exact same thing because he is.
That's what happens.
Yeah, that's what happens when you're a smug prick. but he made sure that like the follow up tweet was like, "Hey, this is a joke in case anybody's not aware," sort of
Right.
thing.
Right.
But he said that it was a legal requirement for any bill in the U.S. to have like some kind of military aid for Israel.
Right. Which
Obviously, a
is,
flippant joke and
yeah,
kind of true in some
kind of
ways because our
pretty kind
COVID
of true.
relief bill has military aid for Israel
Yeah.
put in it, and it's like he got fired for that
Right. Right.
from the Guardian.
So my addendum, I guess, would be that yeah, I mean, this kind of thing does exist in the sense that like I don't know, Glenn Greenwald or someone, or like Matt Taibbi ends up saying,
Yeah,
but it's not the giant monster that
no,
most
a
people
bunch
think
of
it is.
people on
Like
Twitter saying you're bad. Like,
yeah,
yeah, maybe that hurts your feelings, but
but but if you are working as a journalist, it's more complicated, and you shouldn't get fired
right.
for making a joke or something. But then again, like you remember when Sam Cedar he got like canceled for making a joke about how rapists suck,
Yeah,
right?
right. No,
Um,
exactly because
like an obviously flippant kind
what
of
was it?
like
It was
thing.
Mike Cernovich or whatever. Like
Yeah,
hopped
he
on that.
called him out. But yeah, the joke was, if anyone's not aware of it, and most people I think that are into this kind of thing are, but the joke was essentially when what's his name, Roman Polanski, that all of that was going on because he's a rapist and a
Yep.
pedophile.
Yep.
Um, that when all of this was going on, he ended up making a joke because people were defending him, which was, well, if my daughter were to date a grown man, at least it would be one that has an excellent sense of mise en scène.
Yeah,
Like it was
right.
something like that, and
Yeah,
it's like obviously a joke, like,
right.
and he got like canceled because Mike Cernovich, one of the people that are like up in arms about cancel culture and stuff, ended up
Yeah.
weaponizing it against him. So when you work in like a media kind of landscape or something, sure, it's a kind of thing, and people are um, in love with being in uproars, but also if you're going to say things that get people up in an uproar, that's just make it your brand.
Yeah, no, exactly. You just
That's
got to double
just
down
own
on
it.
it and you'll be fine.
Yeah,
Uh,
don't say sorry. And I mean, if you say something, if you do something that's genuinely awful, say sorry. But otherwise, like, if you're worried that you're going to do or say something that's like good that you're going to get canceled for, then double down on it. It's fine. Who
yeah.
gives a fuck?
Personally, I'm
Anyway,
glad that I've never done anything that I should be sorry for. So
I certainly haven't.
hey, let's talk about the big ticket stuff. I guess we've got the
Yes.
energy crisis down in Texas, and this is one of my bugaboos, one of my things that I rant about a lot. It's the private run utilities and how they lead to these kind of oversights, and
Yeah.
how this is actually, building off of our last episode on accelerationism. This is actually like a perfect like case in how accelerationism works.
Sure.
So the basic story is that, and I'm sure everybody who's listening is probably aware of it, but just to
Some of our fans I know for a fact are some of our listeners. Sorry, that was
yeah, I don't like the word fans, so I'm glad that you
lofty of
correct
me.
yourself on that.
Yeah, no, it's kind of gross. But I know that some of them are in fact currently living through it or just did. So
Yeah, actually, that I'll just bring this up as a side note sort of thing. The guy that we're going to be bringing on as a producer, who wants to help out
Mhm.
with the production of all this, he and I were going to last week kind of figure out how it would work remotely, and kind of go over the details and how to operate this whole thing, so that I'm not like wrapped up in trying to click all the buttons and make all the screens change or whatever, while we're talking. We were supposed to go over that, but his power is out because he lives in the Austin area. Um, and not only is his power out, but pipes burst in his apartment complex. So he had flooding in his apartment. I'm not sure how bad it is. I'm actually gonna check in with him after we record this. I checked in with him the other day, and he said he was doing okay. So there's that.
Man,
But it's affecting people. By virtue of being in the military, I know a lot of people from Texas,
for
and
sure.
this is affecting a lot of people that I know personally. And I made the point on the Instagram story, but I'll say it here. If you want to do one of these red state versus blue state sort of dunking on Texans sort of things, like all through summer, California had, actually the week that I moved into this new apartment, we didn't have power because of the rolling brownouts. And the reason these brownouts happen is because the local power company, San Diego Gas and Electric, which is privately owned, hasn't maintained their power grid well enough to withstand a windstorm.
And
Uh,
it's burned entire cities down, by the way.
yeah,
Entire
so
city.
San Diego Gas and Electric isn't quite as bad as
Oh,
Pacific.
sorry. It's not that right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Pacific Gas and Electric is the one that's burned entire cities down now,
Let,
and killed
let
hundreds of people.
Right. Let me say, in addition to this, that when I was a child, and this isn't a way to call myself precocious, this is a way to point out how patently ridiculous all this is. When I was a child, I knew it in my heart that the electric company and the water company and all of the utilities were owned by the government
Yeah. Well,
because
and
they were the things that we needed. So of course, oh shit, that's crazy that we have to pay for it, but it must be coming from someone that gives a fuck about us. It's not some
so
company
your
that's going to be
your
overcharging
childhood
us.
imagination is actually kind of on point. A lot of utilities. I was born in 1988.
Hmm.
Um, all through my childhood up until the late 90s is really when these private entities started taking over the infrastructures of utilities. So
Yeah.
through most of our childhoods, it was kind of true that the local power company was a publicly run agency, and um, there's a lot of benefits of that I'll get into in a
Right.
little bit. But this this experiment of having public utilities run by private entities,
Yeah.
especially they're all for profit, of course, as private entities, is really just damaging our infrastructure beyond all
Yeah.
repair. And it's one of the major crises that we kind of face as a country. and it's going to keep rearing its ugly head as this
Think about
continues to get worse.
the immiseration cycle for wages just applied to pipes and lines.
Yep.
Um,
And so
but
that's kind of the point I want to make is
yeah,
so what happened in Texas, and um the news is doing just the worst fucking job reporting on this, like the mainstream news.
surprise.
Right. And they're giving a
The
lot of airtime
mainstream
to people
media.
who are saying very disingenuous things about what the
Yeah.
actual problem is. So the basic problem is that a cold front that Texas wouldn't normally be used to came through Texas. And you can make some excuses here and there about, oh hey, they weren't prepared. However, I know, working for an infrastructure on a local government level, I work in this realm. We check the fucking weather reports because we know.
What? What? Is
I
that
don't
affecting your job?
I don't work in the streets. There's another division that handles that. But the streets division especially checks to make sure whether or not there's going to be a lot of rain or a lot of inclement weather of some kind, because they may need to shut down streets that might flood, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
So if these power agencies were caught on the back foot of not knowing that this cold front was going to move through, that's just like a basic functional like issue that they need to work on. However, they knew about it. The news had been reporting about it. I'm pretty sure anybody working at the company probably turned on the news at the end of their day and went, "Oh, hey, there's a cold front coming through, honey." So there's no excuse for like not knowing that this cold front was coming through.
Well, I mean, I guess ultimately the excuse would be that even if they knew, which they did, they didn't have enough time to do much about it because of the fact that they haven't been maintaining it all this time, right? They just haven't given a shit, so why do it now?
Right. And so this is the issue that eventually comes up with investor owned utilities, is what they're called, according to
that's
the U.S.
that's
Energy
cool.
Information Administration. Um, so this is kind of an interesting statistic. Investor-owned utilities served 72% of U.S. electricity customers in 2017. I don't know what the current number is. I'm sure it's gotten worse since then. But most of the energy utilities in America are investor-owned. And what happens when there's a profit incentive with infrastructure like this is there are almost automatically cuts made to maintenance programs in order to maximize the profits that then go to the investors.
Yeah.
And so this is why this really ties into the accelerationism cycle, where
Exactly. Yeah.
you have capitalism, or the
Well,
investor,
it's
go ahead.
right. So it's the trifecta where you have the problem of investment being the way that a company begins to actually make its money,
Yep.
coupled with downward pressure on wages. And both of
Right.
these things necessarily, because of the fact that the profit of the company is always going to decrease over time, especially with wage repression, unless it is financialized. And so the three of these things press up against one another and makes for an unstable company that is, either always going through the kind of bubble bursting cycle, or is just at the most optimistic starving people to death, or
Right.
or blowing up their own property.
Yeah, and so what happened here is that in order to maximize profits, these companies always, and I deal with them a lot on a local level in my own job, and this is why I have such a good understanding of how this works. Is all of these companies, they do whatever they can to cut costs, and when you've got certain things that you can't reduce anymore, like we have prevailing wage programs that the government has to abide by. So whenever we call in a contractor. The contractor has to pay a certain amount of wages to the laborer that's doing the work. And so they can't cut costs there. So what they do is they cut costs in other ways, which is, maybe a lower grade of equipment that they use, a different, deferring maintenance is one of the big ones. And so that's a lot of my job, is actually following up on work that contractors do to make sure that they haven't
Right.
like cut corners or anything like that, and really hold them accountable to whatever they do in cases where my own crew can't do the work. um,
Right.
and so, when you have an entire utility that's owned by an investor group, what happens is they defer maintenance on, all these very important, you know infrastructure utilities and whatnot. And in the case of San Diego Gas and Electric, the reason that they have these brownouts is because they haven't done proper like brush maintenance around all these power poles. And so,
Right.
what'll happen is we get some Santa Ana winds coming through, and it blows over a power pole, and then we set fire to the landscape. And this
Right.
is just, it's not that they don't have money. It's that the profit incentive means that they always cut corners where they can, so that they can increase the profit that
Yeah.
returns to the investors.
I mean, it's
Um,
like if you stop taking benzos out of nowhere, it'll fucking kill you, right?
right. Yeah.
Or it
Yeah.
can. And so it's the same thing with investment, where investment is ultimately the thing that is going to destroy your company if you do anything to displease it,
Yeah.
right? Like the stockholders are always going to be the thing that matters. And so anything else to keep the company alive doesn't matter anymore, because you literally have a financial addiction to it.
Yeah.
Um,
And
Also,
so,
something
go
I
ahead.
want to touch on really quickly, because it's kind of connected to what you were saying before, but touches on some of the stuff that I've mentioned in the past, specifically like the water system in Chicago and stuff, and these kind of, in what I view as more or less environmental terrorism, if not just environmental racism, that exists through these kind of companies and their poor self investments. But we have like these Koch brother owned logistics companies that have things like manganese in giant piles near water.
Hmm.
And a tarp doesn't cost that much,
It
but
really doesn't.
right.
I
But
buy
getting
them all the
enough big
time for
old
work.
tarps, but getting enough big old tarps and making sure that they're applied and having extra, rules and shit, that's a, I don't know, that's a pain. And so we have the water system in Southside used to have extraordinarily high levels of manganese, and thankfully manganese is one of the ones that's no longer kept in these giant piles. But one of the things that manganese does when it enters into water is it gains a higher bioavailability, and so anyone that ends up drinking or interacting with that water has really cool effects, like intellectual the fuck, what is the word? I've had too much manganese in my body. Impairment, intellectual
Oh,
impairment,
yeah.
and the
I was
same
just
thing
gonna
happens
say
with
brain
lead,
damage.
right? Yeah, right. Neurological damage. The lead does the same kind of
Yep.
thing, and cancer, of course, is a huge one. And
Yep.
so it's not just that, like, I mean, not that we can hand wave any of this stuff, but it's like it's not just that there are giant fires, and it's not like pipes are just breaking and people run out of water or something. It's not just utilities, but it's literally, even when things are running fine, you
Yeah.
still have these companies that are, if you want to look at it from a sympathetic kind of standpoint, making people sick and dying. If you want to look at it from a psychopathic, numerary kind of standpoint, then it's still shitty, because the fact that it ends up hurting the local school systems, and it costs the government a huge amount of money on medical care, as well as these private hospitals and stuff. If you really want to if you're rich, right, and you want to have fantastic medical care when you get, your hemorrhoids or whatever the fuck ends up happening to you, if you want to have the best care possible, you probably shouldn't be supporting policies that make so that the entire hospital is flooded with people that got cancer because something didn't have a tarp on, right?
Yeah.
And that's, yeah. And like I mentioned before, the Koch brother kind of their whole logistical model and their whole business model is, they want to destroy these companies that they own. that's how they make money, is they grind them into the ground. And so it's a more extremized version of this, working off that same accelerative cycle. So anyway, blah, 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 blah. That's another example of it.
And then, to also work off of that, what's happened here is that there's been so much deferred maintenance that it creates that inefficiency that we talked about in the last episode. And that inefficiency is obviously, very very visible here in the terms of millions of people without electricity. And then what happened is, because the government has to back these power utilities, ERCOT, which is the Energy Reliability Council of Texas, authorized other power companies to increase their what's the word I'm looking for? Increase their rates, basically. Because what had happened was energy became scarce, and so since it is scarce now, we get to charge more for it.
That rules.
After, the reason that it's scarce is because we siphon all this money away from the utility and put it into investor pockets, and we haven't done the proper maintenance, and that lack of maintenance has now led to a shortage, and now we're going to capitalize on that shortage by increasing the rate of I saw somebody, and I'm not sure how true this is, but I'm imagining that it's not too far out of the realm of reality, given the statement that ERCOT put out about the rate increases that people were going to see. Somebody said that their power bill for this period is like 8 times what it would normally be.
Yeah, I believe it.
Yeah, no, I completely believe it, because the rate adjustment that they made was literally almost 8 times the amount of their standard rate going into this.
So people talk a lot about how the invisible hand of the market will save everything. But that right there is the invisible hand, right? Because the entire invisible hand is
the invisible hand of the market.
Right. I'm glad that I don't think that was an Italian thing, though. It should have been.
No.
That's a fisting. It's interesting that you know how to do that. No, I know. Yeah, that's
I don't remember where I learned that from.
I know where
probably
I learned
porn,
but anyway, it's good. It's good that you have the good that you know how to do it. It's important. Anyway,
I've got the fisting etiquette down.
you can't just no. But the term for just as a fun fact for people if they don't know it, for that tendency for supply and demand to equal one another out towards a theoretically ideal state, though obviously it leads to horrible things like this, it's called catallaxy.
Ooh.
Yeah. Ooh. I'm saying it wrong because I've only seen it written. It might be catalaxy, but catallaxy sounds really classy, like a fancy car.
I was gonna say it does sound like a Cadillac, which
yeah.
If it's good enough for Matthew McConaughey, it's good enough for me.
Man, that guy.
Yeah, he was on I want to watch this interview to see if there's anything to like glean from it, but he was on Jordan B. Peterson's podcast.
Oh, really? Oh, that sounds fun.
Yeah, I want to know how that conversation went down, because Matthew McConaughey isn't a person that has like the mental wherewithal to like go, hey brother, I think maybe some of your ideas are a little bit troubling.
And he is conservative.
Yeah, he is conservative.
Yeah. But he's the conservative type of guy that's like, he's always rock climbing, and then when you like ask him about politics, he's just like, I just think that people should take care of themselves and go adventure more. Yeah. And then he just like everything else runs out of his ears,
It's really easy to think that you can take care of yourself when you're when you're millions of dollars richer than them.
I hear he smells really bad too, but I don't want to like.
I'm not surprised to hear that at all. He looks like
he lives in a Winnebago, right? Or a series of them.
I don't know.
I'm just making up Matthew McConaughey facts at this point.
But really good in True Detective season 1.
No, for sure. Actually, he's a good actor. He is a good
He
actor.
is a good actor.
And I hated him up until a couple of years ago when I realized that. Now I'm just like I'm ambivalent to him because I've seen him like speak
Yeah.
a few times.
No, it's one of those things where
But
you never want to know.
don't meet your idols.
Yeah.
Matthew McConaughey is my idol. But there's another interview with JBP that I watched a while ago, and it's a little older now, but it was really fascinating. Where it's essentially it's an extended, essentially psychoanalysis routine that he does on Joe Rogan. He like asks him about his childhood and stuff, and it just goes on forever. And it was
When you were a little boy.
really, yeah.
Yeah,
It was really fascinating because it was like so I mean obvious what was happening, and that like JBP was just like, I'm your dad now.
come here,
it
son.
Really exposed it was really fascinating. So we should keep these things in mind for the future.
Yeah. I'm gonna eventually do a book review when 12 More Rules for Life comes.
Oh yeah, we have to do that. Yeah. We honestly we should because our podcast is named this to begin with. We should probably do more frequent dives into this this man of ours, especially since whenever I post about him, my interactions go up by like 600%.
Yeah, I've noticed that as well when I post something about him.
No, people love that boy.
Yeah, it's bizarre. It is bizarre.
Oh,
so
everyone wants a daddy.
When we talk about utilities and how much money they make and how that money isn't being returned into the maintenance and upkeep of the infrastructure for that utility,
because where does the money go, Mike?
The money goes to investors.
Money returns to investors. Woo! Isn't that great? It always has to go back to them.
I don't know. Oh, okay. No, this does have it. All right. So Centerpoint Energy is the major provider for the Houston area, and they're obviously the ones most responsible for the power outage in Houston.
They're like the center point of it.
Yeah, they're the center point of it. They in 2020 made $12.1 billion.
And I don't even know if that's a lot, like considering these things, but
I mean it's a lot no matter what.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah. It's more money than I make every year.
Yeah, a little bit.
And then in 2019, 12.3 billion. 2018, 10.5, or it's like 10.6 functionally. So we're not talking about small dollar amounts here. Some of those billions could have, maybe even one of those billions could have been returned to the utility infrastructure in the way of maintenance to prevent this massive power outage.
You would think that could do that.
Yeah, and so the point that I always like to make on this sort of thing is, first off, this is like a local, not local in like a very small sense, but this is a company that serves a certain area, and they're making billions and billions of dollars, and from my perspective, maintenance is expensive sometimes, but if you have a good maintenance cycle on things, you can usually, it's not that expensive. And then when you think about how many billions, are left over and how that could be returned to, not only just maintaining current infrastructure, but bettering current infrastructure, optimizing it, installing new features that maybe make it more reliable or safer or more hardened against things like changes in climate. It
doesn't seem important.
Yeah, it doesn't seem important at all. No, it's just, to me, that just seems like such a no-brain issue where like and the fact that these are for-profit companies means that these potential improvements are always turned into money that goes into somebody else's pocket. And another thing is that go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say there's something, and I've brought this up before in various ways, but it's an important thing to remain considering. but there's a weird temporality to this where you would think that a good economist that studied capital econ versus political something useful, you believe that human beings act rationally and will plan for the future, right?
Yeah.
And it doesn't seem to be right, where they are thinking about the future by not preparing for the future. It's
Right.
a kind of terrifying thing, because the future only exists on this sheet that tells them how much they need to return to investors and then to have returned to them and
Of course,
to
yeah.
maintain stock prices, right? And so they understand that a cost of operation is going to be something like a catastrophic fire, which they have to pay a couple $1 million for, maybe,
Which,
and
is
then
like mere
rebuilding something.
hours of operation to them in terms
Yeah,
of income.
exactly. And so because they are worried about the future of the company, not that far into the future, because they still want to sterilize the biosphere, but and know that it's going to happen. You look at documents from like the
Oh yeah,
70s
yeah, yeah. No,
and
the
before,
idea
and they
that
know.
they have a difference of agreement on the sciences.
Yeah,
No, they
yeah,
know that this is suicidal in its
yeah.
inception.
Fossil fuel companies have released so many studies and documents that are actually fairly well done and well sourced, saying that the world is actually being uh, more exact with things like the temperature increases than we have in most other studies. Right?
Yeah.
They know better than anyone what they're doing. And so, but so the past preference of some kind of mid future, and it's just massive. Um, yeah, everyone lives at a different time. The rich people are in more senses than one. No one lives in the present, and the poor always have to necessarily live in their debt and in the past, technologically and otherwise. That's just how this works.
Well, and the other way that it works is also that it's not that a rich person wants the world to end necessarily. It's just that they're
Don't care, and know that it'll be fine for them because they have a
they,
bunker or Mars or some shit, I guess.
right, yeah. So there's the one hand where they know it'll be fine for them, and the other hand is that until you can find a way to make it profitable for them to care about the environment, they won't care about the
Hmm.
environment. And that's what we see
Right.
with people like Elon Musk, who, has all these, green energy initiatives that he's working on. What's the fucking solar company that he has?
Who fucking cares?
Yeah, who fucking cares? Elon
Yeah.
Musk owns a solar company. I forget what its
Tesla
name is right
plates. I
now.
don't know.
What's that?
I don't know. Tesla plates. Yeah.
Tesla energy. But the only reason that he invests in that is because he knows that he can corner a market on
Yeah.
green energy. It's not
Right.
because Elon Musk wants to save the fucking world
Yeah,
and
it's
this
greenwashing.
yeah, and this goes for people like Bill Gates too. They're not interested in these projects of green energy because they want to save the world. They're interested in these projects of green energy because they know that they are in on the market early. They have the capital to put forward to make it a viable company, or investment venture, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And so they're getting in on it and they're pushing for it because they want the government to back their project of making them more money. That's all
Right.
it is. It's
I
not an
I'd also
altruistic thing. It's not a
right.
philanthropic, idea. It's they can make more money through this.
It might be somewhere in their psyche, like a philanthropic, but no. Yeah, it is a money making scheme. That's how this works. Like by necessity.
Yeah.
But and another thing to keep in mind with these downward pressures and with this like ongoing immiseration is there's a good book. It's good enough to read the intro and then determine if you want to continue reading. But the intro has a lot of the theory in it. But it's Lauren Berlant's Cruel Optimism, and one of the key components of it is describing this thing she refers to as cruel optimism, which allows people to continue to feel as if they can either make themselves economically viable or that they can cause change in a system.
Yep.
And that those are actually things that cause these systems to continue their processes of immiseration. And I'm all down for, I like the like irrational hope kind of thing. I'm kind of down for it. But we also have to consider that a lot of this stuff that's happening is part of the trap. It's the cheese in the trap. And one of the important things to note is that the lower wages are depressed for the average person, the more very minor but still totally pointless and still immiserated amount of success seems like real success. And so they can give you peanuts and you can feel like because you can finally pay your rent that you're making it in life and that maybe things are actually okay, even though you're still worse off than any of your parents or grandparents were.
Yeah.
So good thing to keep in mind there, because that is a downward pressure that's going to continue occurring. And yeah, it's anyway, tangent.
No, it's fine. Cool. It's a good tangent. Yeah. So Jerry Jones owns a gas company. He also owns what team?
The Texas
the Texas something or dude, who fucking cares about
the silver team, the Texas, yeah, no, honestly.
Dallas
Cowboys.
Does he own the Cowboys?
The Cowboys? Is it Cowboys?
Let me make sure.
We're big sports ball fans here. I hate people that say that.
Yeah, he does own the Dallas Cowboys. Cool. So not completely wrong.
To be fair, I think sports are actually kind of cool, but I also just I don't have time for it.
You know, if I'm bored and I happen to see somebody doing a sports on the TV or something. I don't actually have TV. I haven't had TV in like over a decade now, but let's say I'm in a public area.
I still watch powerlifting.
Let's say I'm in a public area or like, in an airport and I see a sports on the TVs.
Yeah.
I'll watch a sports.
Yeah, I'll watch some basketball or something. Yeah. I do like Olympic lifting. That's really fun to watch. I will actually seek that out. But it's also short enough.
My like sports weakness is like BMX biking stuff.
Really?
Yeah,
interesting.
Because you
did off-roading with your
there was that and I used to do a lot of BMX biking myself. So
look at you.
Yeah, I used to like be able to do tricks and shit.
Nice.
I haven't ridden a bike in quite a long time, and I probably suck at it now. But
that's actually it's similar reasoning for why I watch like 6 to 7 hours of porn a day.
I haven't fucked in a long time, but
yeah, I used to have moves.
But no, back and this is actually like when I started realizing that the police are racist was because I would hang out at the skate park in my hometown, and the cops like on multiple occasions would like walk up to me directly, the only brown kid at the skate park, because I lived in a very white town.
Right.
The only brown kid at the skate park, and be like, "Hey, are you selling anything?" I'd be like, "Dude, what? No, selling what?" like I didn't even know what they were asking about. What's that?
Right. Skate parks are great for that, because I saw a lot of that stuff when I was a kid. Like I wasn't a skater or anything, but a few of my friends were, and I would like hang out with them. But like cops love to trawl those places for like degenerate or brown kids.
Right.
It's something same that thing. Like so one of my favorite least people. Yeah, exactly the same thing. One of my least favorite people is Tim Pool. Right. He's just rage-inducing.
He's
like
dumb.
A skater kid, or was, and like grew up in like somewhere in Chicago. So like really some skate parks where there happened to be black kids with him. And so like, how is he still successful after he undoubtedly existed around that? Like amazing. Yeah. It's just an incredible,
he's just
incredible
dumb.
person. He's so cool.
I should note.
It makes me sad that I wear beanies so often because they're comforting to me. But now I feel like Tim Pool whenever I do it.
Sure, yeah. It's his.
Sorry.
He took beanies from you. I should mention to the listener, there may be some little audio gaps here and there, and I apologize for
we
that.
having problems?
Yeah, my internet's bad right now. But for the most part, I can hear you. Every now and then, you like cut out for a brief second.
They're gonna miss my cool jokes.
No. I've heard most of your jokes. I think you're very cool jokes.
You don't know what you haven't heard, Michael.
So, anyways, Jerry Jones. Back to him because that's where we started.
I was gonna make a really cool Bush era joke, but fine.
Yeah, we don't need to do that.
Unknown nuns, no.
Yeah, no, I remember.
Go on.
So he reportedly hit the jackpot out of this whole energy crisis thing going on. So he owns let's see, Comstock Resources. Comstock.
What a name.
Comstock Resources Inc. has been able to sell gas from its Haynesville shale wells in East Texas and northern Louisiana at premium prices since Thursday. As demand jumps amid the cold, gas at some regional hubs has soared past $1,000 per BTU.
Damn.
British thermal units is the amount of energy it takes to heat up a gallon, I think is what it is.
That's a big number.
Yeah. So gas from Comstock's Haynesville wells was sold on the spot market for between $15 and $179 per 1,000 cubic feet.
I'm sorry. Hold on. I'm looking at prices per million BTU, and I'm seeing averages depending on like where it's coming from of being like between $15 and $35.
Yeah, so
$1,000.
Yes, exactly. So this is obviously like, and this is why I believe that person who said that their energy bill is 8 times what it normally is.
No shit.
Because
that's insane.
We're seeing a spike, and you know, Texas is huge on fossil fuel energy production. So, I mean, we drove through there recently. You remember how available gas was around there?
Buc-ee's.
Yeah, the Buc-ee's, the horny. I keep wanting to make a meme with that fucking beaver. By the way,
horny beaver. I talk about we have a listener in Texas that I talk to about Buc-ee almost every day because that beaver haunts me.
It's so fucking horny.
It's such a horny beaver.
For the viewer, because we have the viewer on top of the listener now.
Oh yeah, ooh, I'm uncomfortable with that. But like rows of fill-up spots.
This is that beaver, and look how horny that fucking beaver is.
He's so into it, man. He's so ready.
That beaver wants to fuck.
Dude, if I was one of those guys that just got like a bunch of like random shitty tattoos, that thing would be on my body already. It would just
the horniest beaver.
Right here.
Oh, I thought you would like put it just above your pelvic bone or something.
Actually, no, I already have a plan for that one. It's just gonna say John Galt. Because
on a similar note, I've always thought it would be really good to have a lower back tattoo that says "No gods or kings, only men."
But mine works as a good filter, because if someone sees it and says, "Who is John Galt?" you get to have a laugh, and then they also don't know anything about Ayn Rand, and then you
launch into the "Who is John Galt" speech,
the speech for 80 pages of dialogue. But if they look at it and like high five you, you know that you have to stop. And if they look at you with disgust, you know that they're too good for you.
Yeah.
So it's like it's perfect.
Most of my partners have looked at me in disgust, so
yeah.
I don't think I need that tattoo.
Wait, shit, this isn't working.
So yeah, Jerry Jones, who is already like catastrophically wealthy, made a bunch of money off of the suffering of the people of Texas.
We believe in a maximum wage here, right? I mean, I absolutely do.
So what I believe in is, yes, a maximum wage would be fine. Um, I would also be happy with a comparative wage, as in, the owner of a company can only make so much more
Oh yeah,
than like their lowest paid member.
absolutely. Yeah, like
Because the
Mondragon.
equality of outcome thing, I think, is a bad road to go down. Um,
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anyone genuinely believes in that. The people that
no,
do
nobody does, and Marx didn't believe in it either.
no, absolutely not.
And
Um,
the idea that everybody gets the same amount of pay is just a, a conservative attack topic that doesn't
yeah,
actually hold any root in any like actual socialist like reading of
right.
Marx
Yeah,
or
dude.
any of
The
the socialist theorists or anything like that.
right. The idea that people can claim to like read or understand Marx, but they think that number one, he doesn't want anyone to work, and number two, he thinks everyone should get paid the
Right.
same wage or
Yeah.
not get paid, is just it's amazing.
Yeah.
Or that his end goal is like like a absolute totalitarian like government. It's all people don't read. People don't read.
This is also going to be a tangent, but this is why I continue to fight my war against tankies.
Please, yeah, thank you.
Because
God bless.
um and I'm still working on that video about George Orwell,
Right.
that I'm trying to do. But like I before I got kicked out of the last leftist group I was in, for not being cool with North Korea, uh
DPRK all the way.
yeah, the DPRK did nothing wrong. But no, I was making the argument that because George Orwell had come up in conversation somewhere in this group, and people were like, George Orwell hated communists, so he's a fucking, actual
No,
conservative
he hated
psyop.
champagne socialists
Yeah,
is what he hated.
and what he had a problem with was the petite bourgeoisie that was running the Russian communist experiment.
No,
It wasn't an actual communist. Uh, I mean, it was.
he hated
So
totalitarianism.
yeah, he hated totalitarianism, and I should make the clarification that the difference between what Marx described as socialism and he kind of used socialism and communism interchangeably from what I've read. Um,
Well, that's not a point that we need to do right now.
no, no,
But
no, no, no.
go on.
But the the theory behind what became Russian communism was its very own distinct thing,
Yeah,
um,
I
versus
mean, there's a reason there's MLs, right? Marxist Leninists or
right,
their own
yeah,
breed.
yeah, no, and it became its very own distinct thing from what socialism
Yeah,
is, and it was their version of what socialism ought to be. Became what is known colloquially as communism. So there's a huge difference there, and he didn't like the totalitarian project that came along with the Russian communist agenda,
yeah,
which is fine. um,
right. And as a point, whether or not they're right, which I tend to think that they're kind of not, but also kind of are in a way that most people don't realize, including them. But most Marxists who have actually read Marx, their ultimate goal is not to build some kind of centralized economy that's totalitarian and all ruling. It's to build a state that inexplicably through the contradictions of the state dissolves itself. And so the end goal of communism is something like anarchism or left communism or something.
yeah.
Whether or not that's something that makes any fucking sense is another question. But like anyone who actually follows these types of theories and isn't just like, you know, uh, blowing their Facebook ringleader or something, these people recognize that that tankyism is um, either something of a stepping stone, which is also stupid, or
Yeah,
bad.
yeah. I see that argument made a lot that China shouldn't be criticized because what they're doing is that interstitial step between state-run socialism to full communism.
And even if that's true, you should criticize them more. So
yeah,
they keep
and
moving.
that's how you make that. That's how you make that next step, is by criticizing that structure.
Yes.
So
Yes.
the argument itself is dumb, and then on top of it, it's like, no, I don't think President Xi is gonna give up his power. He literally gets mad because people equate him to Winnie the Pooh and like aesthetics, you know, like that's banned. The Tiananmen Square images are banned from China.
It didn't happen.
It didn't.
So
Yeah,
that's
it didn't
why.
even happen. That's actually like a really shitty way that you can shut down like a Chinese YouTube channel, or I don't even think those exist anymore actually. But like Chinese streamers, Chinese YouTube channels, TikToks, whatever, is you can spam them with stuff about Tiananmen Square, and the government will just take their stream down.
Let me say this, but first prefacing it with the fact that this person who I'm referring to is fine, and they're living a happy life right now.
Good.
So
I
didn't do anything that ruined anyone's life. But there was this guy I knew that moved to China and literally became like a pop star out there.
Oh, interesting.
And he was just so irritating to me in every way, and very much one of those like hyper defensive of modern, like hyper capitalist semi-communist China stuff, that I would just send him like DMs and post on his Facebook wall, just like, hey, so when are we assassinating Xi, or like shit like that. And
dude,
he would
you
freak
ruined
out.
his social credit score, man.
Right. This was before I heard about that being a thing.
Yeah.
I don't know how long it's really been there. And
I'm glad that you specified they're doing okay, because
you're right. He hasn't been black bagged yet.
You tried to kill a fucking I don't know what
maybe he
has, but
maybe he has.
Yeah. His account is now run by the CCCP or whatever.
I have to run the Turing test on my buddy now.
Yeah, do it.
My buddy.
Do it and post the results. It'll be good.
I will.
Where's it gonna
go? Where are we? What's happening? People still making money off of utilities and
so let's pivot to a little bit more of a fun topic, maybe.
I refuse.
I'm gonna use to depress everybody anyways. Ted Cruz.
Oh yeah.
Our favorite, definitely not a lizard person inside of a man suit.
Who called him like a werewolf that like got stuck halfway transition?
I don't remember, but
because that was very funny. Yeah, that's very good.
That's hilarious.
I feel like it's one of the late night comedians, like someone that shouldn't have said something that funny. Probably like Seth Meyers or something.
That's a joke that I keep. And John Oliver started this, I think, and then a bunch of other late night comedians hopped on it, where he would bring up somebody and be like, "Seen here looking like blah blah blah,"
right,
as a joke, and then like a bunch of late night comedians hopped on it, like Colbert, who's not nearly as talented as John Oliver, in my opinion.
Right.
Seth Meyers.
Depends on the timeline, yeah.
My favorite, if I had to pick a favorite late night talk show host, it's Conan.
Yeah, he's absurd and pretty fun.
Yeah, no, and that's exactly why I like him, because he hasn't made his last like 4 years off of Trump bad. Am I right, guys? Applause, laugh track.
What is? God damn it! I've totally forgotten the term, and I started looking for it, but it's not worth it. But no, there's a term for like the positive version of this, where you say like a wise Odysseus or gray-eyed Athena or something like that. And I like to view this as like the modern equivalent of it, where it's just like half transformed werewolf Tom Cruise or Tom Cruise.
Ted
sure,
Cruz.
Why not? Yeah. Tom Cruise.
Tom Cruise is more of a half
weasel,
half transformed
otter. He's definitely an otter.
I don't know, man.
No? Do otters have to be fuzzy? I'm not in the gay community enough.
Yeah, I was going to say, in the gay community, an otter is a lithe man who is hairy.
He has to be hairy. Yeah, that
yeah. So there's bear, which is a large man who's hairy.
Right.
Wolf, which is like a in shape, kind of aggressive looking person who's hairy. Otter, who's a hairy kind of not necessarily defined in any way, just kind of, like thin, sort of thing.
And then you've got a horse, which is just an
animal. Our
Just an
friend,
animal
Brad
it's a horse.
Danzens
Is he an otter?
Yeah, I call him an otter all the time.
Yeah, he's totally an otter. I get it. Yeah.
Which, by the way, for the listener, we will have Brad Danzens on again. He's going through some things, very good things actually, and you know, when we have him on, we'll let him talk about that. But he's been adjusting to a new lifestyle, and it's a good thing for him. Overall,
we have a lot of people we need to bring back on or bring on and just
we got a list. Actually, I was going to talk to you about that after we record, but getting some of these guest episodes in, various topics that we need to talk about with certain people who maybe would be more apt to talk about them than you and I would be, because you've got theory, I've got
only because of geography.
Only because of geography, right? Now you've got like the theory thing down. I've got the politics thing down, but like that doesn't obviously encompass the whole of.
We need to bring on a sex haver.
Yeah, somebody who people love. I don't know. Yeah, which is Brad Danzens, so people love him.
Someone with hair.
Yeah, a full head of hair would be good. To bring in a little diversity.
2 or more balls.
Well, less than 3 is what the average ball haver would have in my case.
Well, yeah, but what?
Yeah. Never mind. Anyways, Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz is going on the apology tour, and thankfully the media is allowing him to do it instead of just holding him accountable for what he's done.
I hear he saw a cow made of butter.
What's that?
I hear he saw a cow made of butter down in Cancun.
He did. It was actually his daughters who were amazed by the cow made out of butter.
Yeah. And it was all for his daughters.
Yeah, it was all for his daughters, not him. Which actually ties into the excuse that he's using now for why he went to Cancun, which is funny. But so before we talk about Ted Cruz, I would like to make the point, or I would like to explain that I'm not exclusively going to dunk on Ted Cruz in this talk. The point that I'm going to make is that maybe a little bit of a both sides sort of thing, but in this case, it's literally a both sides thing, where politicians don't fucking care about you. And, as much as the outrage machine wants to focus on Ted Cruz, there's a number of, Democratic other side. I think they're both on the same team. Personal opinion. But there's been plenty of Democrats who have done shitty or shittier things than Ted Cruz.
Oh, for sure.
In
of
moments like this. So let's listen to Ted Cruz make his excuses real quick, because it's just kind of funny to see him like once again kind of relegated to this weird like I'm a little guy sort of thing, like my favorite image of Ted Cruz is the one where he's phone banking for Trump, literally immediately after Trump called his wife a dog.
Hell yeah. And said his dad killed JFK.
Yeah.
Which, to be fair, he did, and it's in his blood because Ted Cruz is the Zodiac killer.
Yeah, for sure.
We know these as facts.
Uncontested.
You cannot sue us. It's true.
Please don't say that. Somebody's going to sue us.
Senator Ted Cruz says he knows his Mexico getaway was a big mistake. The Texas Republican and his family flew off to a Cancun resort on Wednesday as millions of his constituents were without power and water. It took a while for the senator to settle on contrition. At first, his office would not even confirm he was south of the border. Then Cruz said he was helping his wife and daughters escape the crisis and always planned to head straight back to Texas. But then he had to acknowledge he initially planned to stay the weekend and decided to head back after just one night, only after he realized the political fallout.
What were you thinking?
Well, look, my kids, all of us this week, this has been a hell of a week for Texas. I don't like this being used as a distraction from the real issues.
Do you regret going because of the firestorm, or because you left when people were here struggling?
Look, both. Many of the people who were upset with me were upset with me before we started. You can work remotely. That was my intention. But even so, I needed to be here. And so it was a mistake.
How could the senator think it was
this
smart?
Man, he's not a real
go
person.
To Mexico in the middle of this.
He really isn't, and
he's actually not.
One of the points I made on the Instagram story is like, okay, yeah, you can make this a red versus blue sort of thing where, haha, I live in a blue state and I have power right now.
Yeah, that's dumb as fuck for reasons we already said.
You can't shame this fucking guy.
No.
You can't. He doesn't. Whatever exists within people that lets them feel shame, Ted Cruz does not fucking have it. All right.
Remember in 2015 when people were just like, man, yeah, I'm either going to choose Trump or I'm going to choose fucking Ted Cruz.
I know, right?
Like, he was the second out.
This is why I the 2016 election kind of firmly cemented in my mind that most people don't actually have like a coherent political belief system.
No. No, and you know what? At this point in time, people are going to get angry at me for saying this maybe, but God bless Donald Trump for saving us from fucking Ted Cruz.
I agree. No, I agree. And maybe on a different episode, I'm going to make some points about why Donald Trump may have been a better president than Biden is in some ways.
In some ways, I see where you're going. Yeah.
Yeah.
Worst person, better president.
Yeah, worst person, better president. Because when you suck at operating the machine of death that is America, or the U.S. More specifically, it turns out you maybe kill less people somehow because you're just incompetent at doing what it's supposed to do.
Yeah, but he beep the truck.
Okay.
Beep in the truck.
Yeah, it's bad.
You know how to beep.
So another point I'd like to make out of this is a lot of libs, especially. I haven't seen very many like people who I would consider actual leftists doing this kind of shitty like, look at you, Texas, voting in Republicans, and then you face what happens when Republicans are in charge.
Yeah, that's stupid as fuck, man. That's so aggravating.
Texas has one of the most like concerted voter suppression campaigns like in any state in America. And so I'd just like to direct people to this article in Texas Monthly. I'm not condoning everything Texas Monthly reports on. I don't know anything outside of this, but this was a pretty good article about the history of voter suppression in Texas. And lo and behold, what sort of happens in these voter suppression efforts is people of color, Democrats, et cetera, are ultimately the ones that get their votes discounted, or the gerrymandering that occurs within Texas districts, kind of makes it so that the Republican votes of an area cancel out the Democratic votes of an area. And, I don't think that Texas would be any better under Democratic leadership. There's plenty of Democrats in Texas that are running things. But just the basic fact of how much voter suppression happens there. And again, California, a blue state, pretty much reliably since the 1980s, I think.
80s, yeah.
We had rolling brownouts all summer.
Right.
So I don't think anything would have been better in Texas if Democrats were in charge or Republicans are in charge. Right now, Republicans are mostly in charge, and that wouldn't have changed anything about the profit incentive of these public utilities. It wouldn't have changed how this whole thing went down.
This is kind of a non sequitur, but it's something I feel like I need to bring up because I don't think I've brought it up on the podcast before. I know I've brought it up during streams, but this isn't directly an example of that, but it connects where people constantly build up this kind of hope that's actually just part of an ad campaign that Texas will go blue or that it's purple. And there are parts that are going bluer, but this is something that like every election that we've had for the last, I don't know, like 8 years, there's been at least some kind of a rumor that Texas might flip. And the only reason that occurs is because they have such a large population that advertising companies can say, if you advertise enough here, we have a chance of turning it blue, because it's very gradually going blue.
Yeah.
And there's a chance that in maybe 20 years, Texas will turn into a purple or a blue state, but it's not happening anytime soon. Stop banking on that.
Well, and like you say, it's something that we've heard our entire lives. Is, you know, maybe Texas goes blue this year.
Right.
And then
best case scenario, in 20 years it becomes a Florida. Like,
yeah, I was gonna say, like, the other one is Florida, that we hear all the time. Like, maybe kind of sorta, and then somewhere like Georgia comes out of nowhere.
Yeah, I mean, right. And Florida is so funny because it kind of speaks about that incoherence that you mentioned, where Republicans vote like a $15 minimum wage.
Yeah.
Like that's the consistency of Floridian politics, which in some ways I almost respect that. That is just so schizophrenic, but at least they get things through, like felon enfranchisement and $15 minimum wage and stuff. I don't care who they put in office after that.
Well, see, the thing with all that is, I believe, you have enough white people that are felons that the argument makes itself, and like, hey, my buddy can't vote anymore because he smoked meth on the sidewalk or something like that. Not to denigrate the fine people of Florida.
Or Florida man.
I was gonna say Florida man is a meme for a reason.
Yeah.
And then the other thing with the $15 minimum wage is this is why I constantly make the argument that the ID politics that has kind of polluted the left is just really a bad move, because we've reached a point where, yes, there is systemic oppression of people of color, or people who just don't fit the white straight male sort of profile, but we're really starting to see this experiment of capitalism expand out to where white people are often just as poor as their black neighbors, and they might get treated better by the cops, but that doesn't mean that they're not suffering very similar economic circumstances.
I mean, there's that old adage that rising tide lifts all boats, right? But
exactly.
Falling building flattens everyone the same way, or something like that. I don't know.
Right.
Yeah. So what else we got, man?
So yeah, I wanted to bring up that Texas has voter suppression on top of the Ted Cruz thing, and that's why he's still in power. And Beto O'Rourke maybe will one day be in Ted Cruz's place. I think Ted Cruz kind of burned a lot of his political capital with that little stunt he pulled. But that's being, in my perspective, too optimistic to how the political structure works, how the voter suppression works.
Imagine a world where that's optimism. Beto O'Rourke might become like
exactly. When I feel optimistic about Beto O'Rourke being in a position of power, it takes just about everything I have not to climb up on top of the roof and jump off.
Look, buddy, he might say a fuck word.
Ooh,
and he rides a skateboard.
Spicy fuck word. So, on top of
our other favorite guy. Sorry, I saw what.
Yeah, so Andrew Cuomo, who is in charge of the great state of New York. He did this cool thing where, in the middle of the pandemic that we are still experiencing, he released a book about the leadership lessons that were learned through the pandemic that we are, again, still experiencing. This is a decent little article, not mentioned in Cuomo's coronavirus book, how many nursing home residents died in New York. On top of his kind of cover up of all this, he is currently trying to.
Yeah, okay.
So there's a state legislator named Ron Kim, I think it is.
Yeah, I think that's
right. Ron Kim. Yeah. So Ron Kim was part of a call that Cuomo had, where Cuomo was, this was like a private call, where Cuomo was talking about like, hey, let's maybe not talk about the nursing home stuff because his early coronavirus policies and procedures led to massive amounts of deaths in nursing homes. And so Ron Kim has, you know, kind of gone public about this, and Cuomo called him and basically said, I will destroy your career if you keep on this track.
It was worse than that. He said, I will destroy you, right?
Yeah, well, I mean,
Like
that's what I take it to mean. Is
yeah, I don't know. Like it's a wider thing, you know.
I mean, he is Italian, right?
Yeah, well, you know how we feel about them.
So, you know, we can cast stones at Ted Cruz, and then we can also think about the audacity to try to profit off of the pandemic by releasing a book about the leadership lessons you learned from the pandemic that we are still in. And part of the leadership lessons is based on this lie that you didn't kill a bunch of people in nursing homes through your policies. I would consider that worse than leaving Texas for Cancun.
Yeah, maybe, but you know, don't throw meatballs when you live in gabagool houses, you know.
Yeah, that's good.
Hell yeah.
Another one we could point out is Gavin Newsom, the governor of California.
The pretty boy.
Yeah, the guy that we live in state.
Does he also have nipple rings like Cuomo does? You think?
You know, I've seen the pictures, and I'm positive Cuomo has nipple rings, dude.
Cuomo definitely does. I think Newsom probably has he's got a
Jacob's ladder.
Prince Alfred or something.
Yeah, Jacob's ladder, Prince Alfred, something like that. Prince Alfred is like a piercing through it, right?
Yeah.
And then a Jacob's ladder is the skin on top, like up it.
Which rules.
Yeah, rungs of a ladder,
like a Tesla coil kind of thing.
I used to have this joke that I would tell people when I was drunk, and it's I tried to get a Jacob's ladder, but all the piercing guy could give me was a Jacob step stool. Little penis.
Nice.
Yeah, it's a good one. Good one in my opinion. But Gavin Newsom, in the height of, you know, the this was in November, so you know this has been like the cases in California are starting to spiral out of control, and everything's locked down. Gavin Newsom went to the birthday party of a for-profit medical lobbyist with a bunch of people from different households, of course, you know, and apparently the report is
so
that,
loud.
Yeah, it was so loud that they had to close the fucking doors because it was just such a raucous party.
Yeah.
And you know, not maybe as shitty as leaving to Cancun, but you have to understand that these people are all the fucking same in a lot of ways, and that their political ambitions are you know, they're not about whether or not they get you what you need, whether or not they make your life better, whether or not you survive. Their political ambitions are about aesthetics and using those aesthetics to gain power and prestige and wealth. Another one is Denver's mayor. This was this was just the other day that this article came out. On Wednesday, Denver's Board of Ethics dismissed an ethics complaint. Great. Filed after Mayor Michael Hancock flew to Texas for Thanksgiving despite urging city residents to avoid holiday travel due to COVID concerns. So he's telling everybody in his city, you know, don't travel right now because of COVID. And then he flies to Texas to go, you know, party up with his family. And then the Board of Ethics dismisses the ethics complaint about this. So, you know,
amazing. Yeah.
Cool. He's also a Democrat, is why I'm bringing this up. So, you know, we can talk all we want about how Ted Cruz is a shitty person, and he is a shitty person for leaving Texas to go to Cancun. But this is not outside of what Democrats are doing. This is not outside of what any politician is doing. I will say though that Republican aesthetics are more abrasive,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
as we'll see in this next one, which is the mayor of Colorado City. Um, have you seen this?
I haven't seen this one. No.
Okay, so the mayor of Colorado City, Texas, who has now resigned because of the fallout of this statement, posted this. Oh shit, weird. All right, so he says, "Let me hurt some feelings while I have a minute."
Good start.
Yeah, right. And anytime someone wears like an affliction shirt and puts it in your face,
Right.
you know to just like ignore this person because
and they're all named things like Tim Boyd.
Yeah, this is a very Tim Boyd sort of move. Let me hurt some let me hurt some feelings while I have a minute. No one owes you or your family anything. I'm reading this verbatim. All spelling mistakes and wrong word usage is his. No one owes you or your family anything, nor is it the local government's responsibility to support you during trying times like this.
Sink or swim, it is.
Yeah, sink or swim, it's your choice. The city and county, along with the power providers or any other services, owes you nothing. I'm sick and tired of people looking for a damn handout. If you don't have electricity, you step up and come up with a game plan to keep your family warm and safe. If you have no water, you deal without and think outside of the box to survive and supply water to your family. If you're sitting at home in the cold because you have no power and are sitting there waiting for someone to come rescue you because you're lazy is a direct result of your raising. Only the strong will survive and the weak will perish. Perish is spelled like a
place that you go to in a church.
Yes, right. Folks, God has given us the tools to support ourselves in times like this. This is sadly a product of a socialist government where they feed people to believe that the few will work and the others will become dependent for handouts. Am I sorry that you have been dealing without electricity and water? Yes, but I'll be damned if I'm going to provide for anyone that is capable of doing it themselves. We have lost sight of those in need and those that take advantage of the system and mesh them into one group. Bottom line, quit crying and looking for a handout. Get off your ass and take care of your own family. Bottom line, don't be a part of the problem, be a part of the solution.
Jesus Christ. There's so many angry things that I want to shout right now, but I think
if Tim Boyd was devoured by wolves, I would feel sorry for the wolves that had to eat him.
You're right. But like the double bottom line thing that he does.
No. This is a completely incoherent just ramble, of course.
Right. But it's exemplative of something that I've noticed, kind of, and something that I feel conservative about, because there has been a certain degradation of a certain aesthetic over time. Because back in the good old days,
which
totally existed. Instead of writing out this tirade that has two bottom lines somehow, we used to say things in far fewer words and have far more impact. Things like, if I wanted to say this whole thing in just one line, I would say maybe let them eat cake.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
Right?
I was gonna say
whatever would happen to me, I would deserve, just like he does. I don't know what that is. I'm not threatening anyone, but you know.
I was gonna go with the Ayn Rand philosophy of got mine, fuck you.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I mean, see, over time it becomes less and less.
And this is just got mine, fuck you, but it's like he put too much effort into it, and it's kind of embarrassing.
Yeah.
There's obvious ways that you could be like, hey, this is the dumbest thing I've ever read. Like, people living in apartments can't just heat themselves. They can't just like make a campfire in the middle of their apartment building.
More importantly than that, they shouldn't fucking have to.
Yeah, they shouldn't have to. The idea is that they're paying for the services of the electricity company. They're paying to live in the space that they live in.
They're paying taxes.
Et cetera, et cetera. The
people.
things should work, and this is not weather that other places don't have to deal with. So it's not like this is an unprecedented thing where nobody knows how to handle these kind of situations. One of the things that we do for my local agency is, if we're dealing with something that's maybe a little bit out of our like normal operations, we call up a neighboring area that maybe deals with it more. Like, I'm more inland than a lot of like coastal towns, so I'll call up like a coastal town and be like, hey, how do you guys handle such and such with salt and blah blah blah, etc.
Ask your friends.
They've blamed the wind turbines freezing up as part of the problem. Wind turbines are only like 10% of Texas's power grid. Most of it is fossil fuels.
In Texas, it's fossil fuels?
Yeah, I know, right?
My God.
But the thing is that there are turbines that work in Antarctica.
Right.
So
right.
If there's a way to make them work in Antarctica, there's a way to make them work in Texas going through a cold snap.
Yeah.
So, people are paying for these services, and I could go into the fundamental disagreement I have with renting, but people are paying rent, and they should be able to rely on the basic ability to have water, to have electricity, to be able to warm themselves with the heat that they have to use electric heaters because they're living in an apartment, and they, like I said, they can't just make a fucking campfire in the middle of their apartment building because that might set the entire thing on fire.
Weird. They might not get back their deposit if they stay alive.
They're probably not going to get back their deposit for sure. No, and yeah, I don't know. Tim Boyd obviously has never had to live in an apartment, or just maybe he has never had any hardship in his life whatsoever.
Yeah, that's so fucking disgusting.
And if you happen to be a pack of wolves, and you decide you want to eat this guy, hey, things happen. The strong survive and the weak will perish.
That's a good point. It's a very good point. Where'd you get that?
This philosopher named Tim Boyd. The writings of Tim Boyd per Twitter.
One of the lost Stoics. Yeah. Fucking asshole.
Yeah, I really hate how people use stoicism in these circumstances.
Oh yeah, just nonsense. Yeah.
So that's kind of all I had for today. We've gone a minute.
Oh, no palate cleanser? My God.
A minute and a half. Well, we can. Do you have something as a palate cleanser? We could go back to jerking off about Rush Limbaugh. What?
That's true. What were you saying about a minute and a half?
Oh, we've got a minute and a half on this podcast, so.
Oh, to reach what, an hour and a half?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I felt like we were going further than that. No. Yeah, man. I mean, Jesus. What a monster. I will say is like a little like a pitch thing towards the end, because we did talk a little about minimum wage and stuff. If I get 1 or 2 more people on the workshop Patreon, I will officially be making minimum wage if I work at 100% efficiency. So if whoever joins in, then I'll throw a little party for you from a distance. I'll eat myself a little cupcake and I'll send you pictures or something. But people are kind of trickling in and continuing to, and it's becoming a healthier and healthier group. And I'm really excited about.
Yeah, the workshops are going very well, in my opinion.
So again, patreon.com/TRUNCATA Truncata, or go to my Instagram Dank Deleuze, and there's a link in my bio.
Yeah, and I have the link to your Instagram in the link tree that I post with every episode. So if you don't want to remember all these words, you can just go to the link tree that I post in the.
I'm also tagged in all of the captions for the videos.
Yep. On Instagram, I tag you and everything. So plenty of ways to find it. The workshop is very good. I participate in it as well. If you want to see, every now and then I submit some of my writing to be mocked and belittled.
Derided, yeah. And another clarification for people is that we do a lot of poetry, but primarily we talk about theory. We talk about theory and politics and aesthetics and stuff, but so the
first 2 hours of the weekly workshop are talking about theory and discussing theoretical works or literary works.
And we also allow for people to submit anything they want. I'm currently reading through a thesis on geopol and econ. We'll take any kind of writing and look over it, whether you want it looked at just by me or if you want it looked at by the group. We have options for all of those things. And if you want to sign up for this stuff, but you'd rather be part of the more free-form discussions where you can ask or talk about literally anything you want, we have sessions on Thursday evenings that are very casual, and we'll talk about literally anything you desire.
And I'm gonna try to join those more often.
Hell yeah!
I'll come in a little late because I work Thursdays, but so yeah, there's that. Man, I can't think of a palate cleanser at all to save my life.
Ding dong.
Things are bad in the world right now. I think maybe next episode we talked about this a little bit, but kind of having a Q&A sort of session would be good, I think. Hopefully by next week we'll also have a producer joining the program.
Nice.
And then, down the line, a couple of guest episodes that we need to do, interesting topics that you and I have discussed with those. And also bringing in Brad Danzens to give us the Anprim update now that he's living in an off-grid. No, I'm just kidding. Nice. he's not off-grid, but he's moved to a much more rural area.
We have like half a dozen people that we have on the list right now to bring on. So that's a lot of exciting stuff in the future. Let's decide this right now, though, Mike. Do we want episode 20 or 32 or 33 to be the Q&A? Because if we want to do next one is Q&A, I'll put up the question sticker tonight.
Let's do the next one.
All right.
The next one. So 32.
All right. So as soon as you guys hear this, send us questions.
Yeah, and I'll put it up on my my Instagram story, or not story. I'll just make a full post out of it, and we'll answer the questions on the next podcast.
Cool. I'll put one up on the story, and feel free to DM us, or at least me. I don't know. Yeah. Love you guys.
Yes, we love you very much. Please take your medicine.
Take mine too.
Hi, Michael Deebs here, with no gun pointed at my head. Please know that all content created for the Benzo Rehab Dungeon is and always will be freely available. However, if you would like to support this creation of content, we here at Camp Benzo would appreciate it, as the production itself is not free of cost. Anything donated will go to covering the various subscription fees maintained for content production or improving and expanding the content produced. If you are able to, please head on over to patreon.com/Benzo Rehab Dungeon. We also have shirts for sale on Teespring, all priced as low as we can get them without turning much or any profit. They are mostly so that you can show your loved ones that a necessary intervention may be on the horizon. Links to the merchandise storefront and our various social media profiles can be found on our link tree, which is the word linktr.ee/Benzo Rehab Dungeon. As always, we love you. Please take your medicine.